Good morning, fantasy managers. This is Devo 1099 from Fantasy Football Backers. We are entering the Champions League quarterfinal stage. We are fresh out of teams from the Premier League, which will certainly dim interest in England, but we're going to move on. There's some great teams left. There's some interesting matchups. The primary site we're going to play on is Mondogoal. This week, Mondogoal, it's nearly impossible. I think that they're struggling a little bit to price out the Champions League matches. They're trying to carry over the values from the domestic league play. Like you've got Messi and Ronaldo, well over £20 million. Several other players are over 10 million. It's very difficult to find the right type of value that's going to give you more than 2 or 3 players that you actually are excited to have in your lineup. But not worth complaining about here. Everybody has the same budget and the same values, so we're going to push on, try to come up with the best plays we can, and take a look at which teams we like here. So. Start out, we're gonna look at the Tuesday matches, and a reminder, on Tuesday you're gonna get a chance to see those lineups before you have your lineup locked, which is very important. Even though we can predict for the most part who teams will go with in the Champions League, since they're gonna want to play their best players, there's still enough injuries floating around and some squad rotation concerns that it's really helpful to have those lineups in advance. One in particular, we're looking at Juventus hosting Monaco. Juventus is the biggest favorite for the week. You've got Barcelona and Real both in away matches. Real in particular has a very difficult away match. Barcelona probably can handle PSG and certainly can score, but they had enough trouble in Paris last time when they face each other in the group stages. So we're going to look at Juventus, and we're also going to look at Bayern. Bayern is away at Porto. Porto has been able to score against virtually everybody, but Bayern is not everybody, and Porto's had a relatively easy road to get to the quarterfinals. I think Bayern is going to be a different animal for them. They may struggle to score, particularly without Jackson Martinez, who is still out injured. So we're going to look at Bayern as well. Atletico has some interesting plays because they have more of the cheap players that we're looking for in a relatively okay matchup. They really get up for the Madrid Derby. They play Real very well. They beat them 4-0 last time out, so they're playing with confidence, and they have some players that are under £10 million, which will help us try to get within our budget. So starting with Juventus, we're going to look at literally the entire Juventus team. My strategy with Juventus is they are far and away the most likely to keep a clean sheet. If we can lock in those points, I think that would be great. The problem is they're not really that inexpensive. Up top, we have Tevez. Sounds like he's definitely going to be a go. He's £15.5 million. He's an incredible player. One of the most likely to score this week, along with Lewandowski from Bayern and obviously Messi. I like Tevez, but Morata is £8.1 million and should be starting up top with Tevez. He's a little less likely to score, but still a pretty strong play. Then I'm looking at the midfield. You've got Pereira, you've got Marquisio, you've got Vidal. Pogba's out injured. Ever since Pogba's been out, Pereira has been playing exceptionally well. I definitely think that if you can fit him in, that can make sense. The problem with playing any of these players is, as I mentioned, Juventus is just so far and away more likely to keep a clean sheet. They're approximately 64% without the bookmaker VIG. So figure on, 67, 68% to keep a clean sheet. The next highest is going to be Bayern, who is probably down around 45%. So that's a pretty significant difference. So Buffon at 10.2 million in net. You've got Lichtsteiner. You've got Patrice Evra, who actually plays more of a midfield winger role. Is a nice value. So those are the guys I'm looking at. Berzagli and Bonucci should round out the back. I wouldn't be opposed to playing Buffon along with 3 defenders from Juventus. Again, Pereira's a very nice play. Morata, Tevez. It's tough. The limitation of 4 players per team is really going to come into play here with Juventus just having such a strong matchup and the rest of the matches really not being particularly great. So next we're looking at we're not touching Monaco. I'm sure there's some value to be had there. Toulalan in the midfield is pretty solid, 6.9 million. But I just think Juventus should dominate this match. They should dominate possession. Monaco is built to defend, but I just don't think they're going to cut it here. I think you're going to see them play a lot more like they did in the second match against Arsenal than in the first one, where they were able to get pretty fortunate on some breakaways where they were able to counterattack. So I don't really like Monaco here. Juventus isn't going to fall asleep like Arsenal did at the back. They're not going to allow these counterattacks. So I just think that they're too strong at the back, and Tevez and Morata have too much pace and are too talented up top that with the possession they're going to be having, Juventus should roll. So no Monaco. Looking at Atletico and Real are the second game on Tuesday. We definitely like Atletico to try to play well at Vicente Calderón. They really need to get a result here to have a shot heading back to Real, to the Bernabeu. So Arda Turan is a really nice play at 7.2 million. Suarez at 6.7. Joe Miranda in defense, 6.7 as well. If you want to go a little bit different and you need to try to get lucky with a goal, Griezmann is just playing out of his mind right now. He's a little expensive at 12.8 million, considering how difficult it's going to be to form a team otherwise around any players that you're taking over 10 million. If you want to fit in Tevez, Lewandowski, or if you really want to get aggressive and try to get Messi, there just aren't a ton of players that are below 10 million that we really love that have great matchups. And that's just, that's the nature of how Mondogoal priced this week. So I think Turan is great. I think Suarez, not Suarez from Barcelona, but Mario Suarez here. Griezmann's very interesting, but Mandzukic is going to be back. Griezmann did a lot of his damage when Mandzukic was out. So that's less interesting to me. And Real, Real is going to be perfectly fine if they can, leave this match 0-0 or 1-1 or obviously if they can win it. So I like some midfield for the value for Atletico. Overall, I'm not really getting too involved. And as far as Real players, I just don't see them going into Vicente Calderón and really lighting it on fire. And they don't have the value to make it worth your while in the first place. You're not going to take James coming back at 16.2 million. You're not going to take any of their defenders when you can just take Juventus defenders or Bayern defenders. So I think we're leaving Real alone, and we're going to move on. So Wednesday's matches, you've got Porto and Bayern. You've got PSG and Barcelona. PSG, the most interesting pricing in PSG is Sirigu, the goalie. The keeper is 4.7 million pounds, which is about as inexpensive as it gets. But you really have to get lucky against Barcelona for that to pay off. I mean, I think he's 7-2 against for a clean sheet. If he gets a 1 goal allowed bonus, that would be fantastic. And couple that with minutes played, a few saves, he's probably going to be, worth 7 or 8 points. But if he lets in 2-3 goals, he's gonna end up hurting you, and he could always go negative. With Barcelona, they have the best striker combination in the world. We'll see. I definitely could see playing Sirigu, solely that he's half the price of any other keeper that you'd even consider. So that alone, puts him on our radar. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to win a head-to-head match, then I don't think he's a good play. If you're trying to beat out 20 or 100 opponents, then Sirigu could be well worth the risk, especially if he unlocks Messi for you, and that sort of cancels each other out. But to me, probably too big a risk. I would rather find a midfielder, find some defenders that are a little less expensive, and just not reach for Messi. I think you can put a team together without doing that. As far as other players on PSG, I like Vanderveer. He's solidly priced at £6.1 million. Don't expect a clean sheet. Hope that he draws some fouls. He tends to try to get forward. Matuidi at $8.7 million. Cabaye at $6.4 million. Cavani should be leading the line with Ibrahimovic having picked up the red card against Chelsea. So Cavani's going to be leading the line. Cavani can score, and at $7.8 million, that could be a really nice value. Barcelona has a solid defense, but they're not impenetrable. They're happy to beat you 3-1 as much as beating you 1-0. As long as they score, they're not really concerned. So I think that Cavani could be a nice value. He may score when they're down 3-0. It doesn't really matter when he gets it. We're not worried about clean sheets with their forwards, so Cavani could definitely be a solid play. For Barcelona, sounds like Mascherano, Adriano may get starts. Alves is going to miss out. Mascherano and Adriano are both solid plays. Could be tough for PSG to score for sure. They're both below 10 million. Iniesta at 11 million, probably not going to make the cut for me. Neymar and Suarez are both 14.9 and 14.8 million. Always decent plays. I don't really love the matchup. They're not as likely to score 2, 3, 4 goals as they typically are, yet they're still going to be priced as if they are planning on doing so. So I don't think there's much value there. Moving to our last match, Porto and Bayern. Not really considering anyone on Porto. All due respect to what they've done. You take out Jackson Martinez up top. Brahimi's a good player. Herrera's been playing really well. Abu Bakr can score. I don't know if he's scoring on Bayern. If they weren't facing Bayern, then Danilo would be a nice play. Fabiano, but they are. Bayern is a machine, and it's just not going to be worth the risk. As I mentioned, Juventus is in a much better matchup. Even Atletico, at home is just so solid. I just don't see the need to try to guess with any Porto players, but again, large field. I can't predict the future. So if you think that Porto could potentially do what Shakhtar did when Shakhtar played in the Ukraine against Bayern and shut them out, okay. I'm not going to stop you, but I don't see it myself. As for Bayern, you got Manuel Neuer. If you decide to use, 4 Juventus field players, then you're not going to have room for Buffon, and Neuer is a meaningful discount. I think Buffon is probably still a better play because of the 6 points for a clean sheet and the increased likelihood that Juventus can accomplish that. But Neuer's definitely an option as well. Philipp Lahm's back from injury. He hasn't been playing particularly well yet. Mondogoal hasn't brought his price back down. So at 11.8 million, I don't really love Lahm. But definitely a play. He could be situated in the midfield, which raises his value a bit. Rafinha, Stuber, Bernat, those are all solid plays. Boateng, if he's fit to go. Anybody in the defense for Bayern has a shot at a clean sheet, and they always get involved in the attack as well. So in the midfield, you've got Xabi Alonso, you've got Götze, you've got Müller, and then up top you've got Lewandowski. If you can fit all these players, by all means do so. Chances are you're going to have to make some really difficult decisions. I think my last team I came up with, I had Lewandowski up there. He's one of the more likely to score along with Tevez and Messi. Messi's just, to me, is priced out of my range where I'm just not going to be comfortable with the rest of the lineup I come up with if I use Messi. So as you can see, Mondogoal has really made a challenge for us this week to put together a lineup you're truly comfortable with. But as I mentioned, everybody is in the same boat. There's teams to be made. You're just gonna have to cut some corners. You're gonna have to take some players that you're not particularly excited about, hope that they can come up and meet their value. If they're priced at £7 million, that they can get you 5, 6, 7 points. Scoring should be hard to come by. These are the first leg of quarterfinal ties. There's going to be some nerves out there. There's going to be some tentative play. Nobody wants to make any mistakes. There could be some counterattacking, but for the most part, I think it's going to be fairly conservative across the board. You do have a team like Juventus is going to need to strike, so that's why we're so focused on them. They're going to need to get a result at home before they head to Monaco, because that's just going to be a much tougher place to play. Same idea for everyone, really, that's at home. Atletico, PSG, Porto, they just have much more difficult matchups than Juventus does. So best of luck to you. I hope that despite the Premier League not being represented, that you can really embrace Champions League. It's some amazing football. We're going to get some Premier League teams back next year for sure. I think Chelsea, Man City's going to solve some problems with some summer transfers. Arsenal may improve. So let's not give up on Champions League. It's a good goal. It's good to know the level of talent that's there. So don't give up. Watch those matches this week. Enjoy some beautiful football, and we'll be back for the weekend with Premier League. All right. Good luck to everybody.